Frenzies is, or rather was, a VR shooter developed by Nearlight, an in-Dream studio. In-Dreams have a ton of games under their catalog, with Synapse, Vendetta Forever, and especially Reach being the notable ones. Though when it comes to Nearlight themselves, they mainly have Shooty Fruity as their standout. Even if Nearlight's track record is small, or not that exciting nowadays, they're still part of In-Dreams. As such, they decided to use their skills to work on a game that would combine the mechanics from their previous games with a chaotic multiplayer shooter. That game, as you could guess, was Frenzies. Frenzies would be revealed back in July of 2024, alongside offering closed playtest access within the Discord, which were all NDAs, so not much to really mention regarding it. 3 months later, however, after taking in playtesting feedback, the game would enter early access for Meta Quest headsets in October later that same year, promising regular updates and fixes, new game modes and features, and much more. They would certainly deliver over the months with tons of new round types, cosmetics, a new hangout style lobby, and so much more. There were even limited time events for holidays like Halloween and Christmas, as well as a surprise Super Bowl style one. However, 2 months after the two-handed update that sought to shake up the meta, it was announced the game would be shutting down on April 7th, only giving the player base 2 more weeks to enjoy the game following the announcement, though it was more like 1 week due to server instability. Cosmetics would be discounted to 1 funds, the game's standard currency, and players who logged in will receive 1,000 of said currency. Refunds were also open for the premium currency bullion for anyone who went and purchased some with real money. The difficult part is that it wasn't too hard to see the signs that the game was on its way out the door. Before I get into that though, I guess I should explain Frenzies for those who weren't aware of the game. Frenzies is a 12-player VR shooter where each game consists of 5 rounds, with each one having a different rule set attached to it. These rounds will often split the 12 players of the match into multiple teams, or even just be an all-out free-for-all. Depending on your placement within the round, which is dictated by your score, you'll get a certain amount of points. Things like kills, assists, and revives obviously give points, but the best point makers are objectives and your team winning the match. Think of all this like a Grand Prix mode in most racing games. The player with the most points after 5 rounds would be the winner, towering over everyone. What made the game stand out in my book, aside from the Mario Party-esque round types, was the fact the game encouraged dual wielding at every given opportunity. This made deciding between what weapons to bring pretty important in order to maximize damage or cover certain weaknesses with the other weapon you're wielding. Not to mention, weighing the risk of having to put away one of your weapons in order to hide behind cover, use a zipline, or grab an objective. You could see how much effort they put into the akimbo aspect of the game, even allowing you to reload weapons by pushing ammo against your body, using your other weapon, or more likely, a wall or surface. On the topic of weapons, Frenzies had an arsenal of 7 weapons, all of which having silly names, unique critical hit sounds, and varied stats amongst each one. The Resistor, a pistol that could fire up to 3 shots if you held down the trigger. Its accuracy and recoil made it the easiest weapon to get a feel for. The Pacifist, a powerful revolver that rewarded accuracy with some of the highest damage around, if you could aim and match the recoil of course. The Venator Pro, an assault rifle with a slow rate of fire that makes up for it with a very manageable recoil and damage, an amazing automatic option for beginners. The Wakizashi, an SMG with a large magazine and fast fire rate, but a very wild recoil to it. Takes a steady hand to control it. The Piranha, a micro SMG that reloads fast and shoots even faster. An excellent choice for rushing down foes given the insane recoil. The Bad Baby, a semi-auto shotgun that requires getting up close for the best damage, but thanks to its magazine could be fired quite a number of times before needing to reload. And lastly, the Loudmouth, a sawn-off shotgun that dealt even more damage point blank at the cost of only having 2 shots per reload. Since dual wielding was the name of the game, all weapons used drawn reticles to show where you're aiming at all times. The reticle was stylized based on the weapon you're using, would change shape if you're looking through a red dot or irons, and even included arrows to show which hand was wielding it. These reticles could be turned off if you wanted to, or even customized to have different colors for each hand. The two-handed update mentioned earlier also gave the ability to hold each weapon with 2 hands, go figure, offering better recoil control and increased damage to help it compete with dual wielding, adding a new layer of strategy to which 2 weapons you brought into a round. While the gameplay loop, mechanics, gunplay, and aesthetics were really good in my opinion, it wasn't really the sort of thing that could realistically sustain a player base long term, at least in its current state, prior to the shutdown. The game lacked any real progression incentives past level 9 outside of player and weapon cosmetics. The queue system often made trying to match up with players not on your friends list a hassle, and the player numbers would lead to fighting bots more often than actual players. This pretty much meant you had to get lucky when encountering players at certain times, which, outside of double XP weekends, was non-existent, especially for the more dedicated players, since double XP was the only real incentive to play. Outside of the gameplay angle, there's a few notable things surrounding the game that caused some problems. For one, the initial announcement for the game mentioned it would be coming to MetaQuest and PlayStation VR 2. This led to a ton of people who came from Synapse, a popular PSVR 2 roguelite by InDreams, eagerly awaiting to play this one as well, only to be left in the dark for months, and then suddenly get told there was no PSVR 2 version in the works anymore. This ticked off a lot of people, making them feel betrayed about the whole thing and angrily putting off the game as a whole. While many were quick to blame Meta and how they're in control, it was far from that. Nearlight is a pretty small team, especially with the layoffs surrounding InDreams at the time. Having to juggle 2 spinning plates while in early access would be a lot to worry about. Plus, PlayStation isn't exactly the easiest to work with when it comes to PSVR 2 and updates, as the devs of Underdogs have expressed before, hence why there wasn't a PSVR 2 closed playtest for Frenzies. The other problem was the game's online presence. Short-form videos would get uploaded to TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts, but YouTube videos were non-existent, and the Twitter account may as well have been a ghost town after the start of January 2025. This resulted in a lot of people forgetting or never really hearing about the game. After all, there's a ton of VR games and experiences out there all vying for your attention, and it certainly doesn't help that the Meta storefront makes finding games like this a difficult task given how many AI asset flips are everywhere and how in-your-face Horizon Worlds was. Even if they did have the presence and reach to get players, they would then need to turn those players into paying customers, which when the game relies on a premium currency system, a shop with daily rotating items, and nothing in the store that stays put for a long time, it's a difficult sell for folks like myself. I definitely don't think a small team like Nearlight were prepared for a live service game like this, nor were they prepared for what would come next for the studio. In early March, it was reported by Upload VR that InDreams went through a 3rd round of layoffs, as well as restructuring, meaning Compass, as well as Nearlight, would be shutting down, putting InDreams Elevation as the main focus for now. Given the VR gaming landscape is in a very weird spot at the moment, with many studios suffering layoffs or shutting down entirely, this was inevitable. Frenzies could certainly find ways to bring back players and interest, especially with an Easter event or what have you. But once the studio behind the game is gone, well then, what can you really do? I remember getting scared when Richie, one of the main community moderators of the Frenzies server, was leaving back in February. To see a guy like that disappear, I was unsure what would be going down, and sure enough, here we are. Frenzies was one of the few VR shooters that I genuinely fell in love with. So many have fallen into the tactical military shooter minds that it was refreshing playing one that went back to basics with team deathmatch as the main focus. Not only that, but the game had some elements I was quite fond of. Dual wielding being the name of the game was a real treat, and it made it more than just Gunstock Simulator number 7. The chaotic nature of the round types meant you could end up having to fight against someone you were just buddies with a second ago, and the small but varied arsenal of weapons gave a lot of flexibility in how you fought against others or even tackled objectives. Stuff like this pretty much cemented Frenzies as the only multiplayer shooter that genuinely got me excited to play and return to VR, apart from Hyperdash. It was also cool seeing offhanded suggestions of mine actually getting put into the game, like Friendly Fire having team lives as opposed to 1 life per player, which makes it all the more sad to see Frenzies go. Not just because of the fun times I had, but because nobody will really attempt a VR shooter like it for years to come, especially when the money is with military tactical shooters with a focus on either bomb defusal, battle royale, or extraction. Plus, with Nearlight gone, there likely won't be a chance to see it turn into a smaller game, so we can still enjoy the gunplay it has to offer, meaning no more focus on dual wielding, no more crazy game modes, no more stylish gun skins, and worst of all, no more Frenzies. I know for a lot of people that Frenzies just looks like yet another free-to-play live service shooter that died with a whimper, but when you've been around VR for as long as I have, it was genuinely refreshing. In fact, I have Frenzies to thank for more than just the gameplay, since it encouraged me to try out different styles of video creation. It's not much, sure, but I wouldn't have given it a try if it wasn't for the game. So as I look back at all the fond memories as the game disappears into the graveyard of live service games, I'm grateful to have found and been a part of the experience, even if it was small. Thank you, Frenzies. I will always hope for the day something will take your place. Until that day, I guess I'm forever stuck in the military mines. At least I still got Hyperdash.